So I want to welcome everyone to this interview. We're interviewing Derlyn Cayanan, who's one of our Gratia Plena counselors today. Derlyn, thank you for doing this and being with me this afternoon.
Of course. I'm glad to be here.
I want to use this opportunity to let people get to know you better. So maybe you can start by just explaining a little bit, what is your role with Gratia Plena? What position do you have with us?
So I am a counselor up in the Woodlands area. We have our office just off of 45, and I've been with Gratia Plena for about 3 years now. Mostly seeing, I guess a little bit over 3 years, 3.5 years or so. Mostly seeing, just the general public. I see a lot of teens, and younger kids too, but just general people most of the time.
Okay, so you're a counselor. You're licensed as a counselor. It's called an
Mhm.
LPC, licensed professional counselor in Texas. Can you tell us anything about what that means?
So a lot of it is just working towards um, having that license. What does that mean? So that means that I'm licensed by the board in Texas, that I can practice counseling within the state of Texas, not so much out of Texas, but within the state.
Right, and most counselors these days, most counseling services are actually provided by master's level LPC counselors,
Hmm.
not so much by social workers or psychologists, but really the bulk of the counseling these days happens by LPCs like you.
Hmm.
And so I think that's important for people to know. So we're so happy that we've had you for over 3 years now at Gratia Plena, really about 3.5 years, I think. Um, how do you like working at Gratia Plena?
I really like it. I I've kind of seen the office up here at the in the Woodlands grow, really from the beginning. You hired me, Dr. Ken, back in January, and we hadn't even had an office yet. We were working at Sacred Heart and then growing and moving to St. Anthony's, and since then we've been able to open up the office in the Spring Woodlands area. And it's just been incredible seeing the growth, the client, the caseloads grow for not just me, but for all the other counselors that have come up to the Woodlands office, and all the new counselors that we've been able to hire. We've been able to hire. Um, I think it's been great. Like, as a personally being able to use my faith in the counseling. Um, because I went to Franciscan. A lot of my training was with Catholic counseling, Christian counseling. So it's really been a gift to be able to use that in my work. Um, and especially the clients that we see are really, not all the time, but a lot of the time they're looking for that faith-based counseling. And so really being able to offer that to them has been such a joy. And like seeing that strength in those clients, that they can use that strength for getting over whatever struggles they're going through. Um, yeah, that's been some of my favorite things about working for Gratia Plena.
Good, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned some of your background. You talked about Franciscan, and maybe we'll get around to that, but maybe you can give us some background information about you, where you're from and so forth.
Hmm. So I was raised mostly in Hawaii. My dad is retired military, so kind of moved around a little bit when I was younger. But we settled in Hawaii. I was there for most of my adolescence. Um, and from there I went to Franciscan University. So I was there for my undergrad in I graduated from high school in 2010, and then graduated from my undergrad 2014, and then went straight into my master's, graduated in 2016 with my master's in counseling.
So were you raised Catholic, Derlyn?
Yes, I was raised Catholic. There was a good, we weren't always so involved in the church, but I always remember going to church wherever we were living. And I think as I grew up, as I got older, we were more dedicated to going to mass, especially as I got into high school. I became more involved in my youth ministry, and I don't. I think that like even my family kind of getting involved with me got us all going back to church, not just going to mass, but being involved in the ministries and things like that at our church.
Okay, and then what caused you to consider wanting to go to Franciscan University?
So funny story, I didn't actually want to go to Franciscan. I had applied to Gonzaga, University of Portland, and to Franciscan. My family were wanting me to get out of my comfort zone from being in Hawaii. So I only applied to schools on the mainland. And uh, my parents convinced me that financially Franciscan was the best option. And of course, they had their own motives of wanting me to go to a good Catholic school. So even I remember, I tell this all the time, I remember being in the parking lot at the grocery store, like at orientation weekend, like being so upset that I was going there. But it really grew on me. I don't regret it to this day. It was a great experience, but yeah, I actually didn't want to go to Franciscan.
So what did you like best about Franciscan?
um, Probably the people. I think that there's kind of um, people have their own opinions about what the people are like at Franciscan. But I think once you find your niche at Franciscan, you can kind of like get into uh, just like comfort with these certain people calling you on to like be a better Catholic. And really I think the opportunities to learn there. I remember, so I have my bachelor's in psychology, but I remember kind of having the option. I was taking theology classes and I was like, well, I'm here. I'm like I have this great opportunity to learn more about my faith. Why not minor in theology? So I ended up minoring theology, and I learned so much while I was there, things that really helped me that I forget about sometimes, but things that really helped me in my own personal prayer life and my own knowledge. But yeah, I think that was one of the, just a great opportunity.
Good. And so where do you worship now?
So I go to St. Anthony of Padua in the Woodlands.
Okay, and what is your spiritual life like? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So well, now with COVID, we're streaming mass every weekend, so I haven't been able to go to mass in quite a few months, which has been really sad, really hard. But a lot of it has been keeping up the discipline of daily prayer. So my husband and I pray every night, which is something we've been doing since we were dating. But um, I've really been trying to make it a habit to make sure I'm praying every morning. And that looks different from week to week. Sometimes I will sit down with a devotional. Sometimes I'll sit down with scripture. And especially right now, I'm also a new mother, so kind of like figuring out the balance between, okay, I have to, as soon as I wake up in the morning, I'm taking care of my baby, and then I have to find time to devote time to prayer too. So it kind of looks different from day to day, week to week, but I try to keep that in my schedule, in
Yeah,
my routine.
it can be a juggling act, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite saints?
I do. I really like Saint Therese of Lisieux. I read her book when I was, I want to say a sophomore, junior in college, Story of a Soul, and it was really incredible seeing I always think about I think there was a sister that was in the convent with her, and she just like didn't like her, and just like she was finding ways to love her, um, and just different stories that she had like that. There's also another book that I read kind of recently. I'm trying to think of what it was called, but it was by Father Michael Gately. Um, and he talks about like the elevator imagery that she has um, of like having God come down to us, and we're kind of lifted up to God. Like we're too little to really like reach God. And so he kind of makes it easy for us or tries to make it easy for us by kind of like by giving that up to him.
Yeah, it's a beautiful image of getting a lift, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. So you mentioned before that you kind of see all kinds of different things going on in your work at Gratia Plena.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of issues do you deal with in the people that you're seeing at Gratia Plena?
A lot of depression and anxiety. I would say that's kind of across the board with both with teens and with adults. Um, and I think everybody who comes to us, I think to some extent has like some struggles with that. And it's not necessarily exactly depression or anxiety or whatever, but there are some symptoms of it, I think, when somebody's going through an adjustment period or grieving the loss of a relationship or grieving the death of a family member. I think a lot of it's coping with the different emotions that they're going through. Um, yeah, so I think mostly depression and anxiety, I would say.
Okay, do you think that you're starting to develop some areas of expertise, things that you feel really comfortable and good at working with people on?
I would say probably depression, anxiety. I think anxiety, especially with adolescents. There was a couple of months ago that I was looking into, um, or not looking into, but I had a few clients who were going through postpartum depression, and I myself was pregnant at the time. So that was something that I've been looking into more. But I wouldn't say that I'm well versed in it by any means, but something that I've been interested in lately, at least.
Yes, we know that postpartum depression is so common, and so that definitely is a good thing to know about for any counselor. But it's great that you can relate to that as a young mother yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like how that works, where we look at issues in ourselves, and then we kind of develop interest in those things, and then that helps us to help other people too.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that you see adults and teenagers. Do you see children as well?
I do. The youngest I've seen is 3, but that was only one person. So I've seen 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, really any, not any, but going down even that young.
Okay, so you see all ages.
Yes.
Very good. Um, and so you've kind of mentioned as we're talking today that you integrate your Catholic faith in with your therapy.
hmm
How does that work?
so I think really finding the strengths of the specific client, finding what works for them, what their prayer life is like, and kind of using what works for them as ways of that they can find strength, even um, like finding out ways that maybe they're not practicing those things at the moment, but finding things that they want to improve in. Because I think that can really be a way of um, what are you already looking towards that we can work on. Um, I think really looking towards the saints too, as a way of finding strength, and seeing, okay, this specific saint went through this. How can I relate to this, or ask for their intercession through what I'm going through? Um, I think really turning to the sacraments is a great strength for a lot of clients. Um, I think that's what I could think of off the top of my head.
Okay, so
Yeah.
a lot of your clients are Catholic, but not all of them.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, very good.
Mhm.
So because of this whole COVID thing, you've been doing a lot of video therapy more than seeing people face to face in the office.
Mhm.
How has it been doing the video therapy?
It's actually been pretty good. It hasn't, I was expecting more, I was expecting it to be more difficult than it is. But it's been pretty smooth so far. And I think because it's been so smooth, it's encouraging that we'll be able to be more available to other people. So, kind of reaching out to further areas that might not have been able to drive into the Woodlands. kind of encouraging. It's kind of encouraging that, oh, maybe we would be able to reach out to those more rural areas.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking that same thing, especially Texas. In Texas, we have a lot of rural areas,
Mm-hmm.
and there's not always counselors around. So a place like Roans Prairie, Texas. Do, have you ever heard of Roans Prairie, Texas?
Never heard of it.
Roans Prairie, Texas is a little town of about 50 people between Huntsville and College Station. It's
Okay.
up near Anderson.
Uh-huh.
So, if you lived in Roans Prairie, Texas, you probably don't have a counselor any place around there.
Right.
But now thanks to the use of video therapy, you could access a counselor,
Mm-hmm.
which is just really a fantastic development. One of the good things that's really come out of this whole COVID situation. So I think you're definitely right about that, about us being able to reach out to people all around Texas if they don't have access to a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a great thing. Um, are you seeing people stressed out by this whole COVID issue?
There have been some people, but I wouldn't say majority of my clients have been. A lot of it's been like social stressors, but then also the economic stressors of what's going on, and the different effects it has on like on their children with their schools and things like that. Kind of the transition between um, going back to school and kind of this new environment that they're going into and things like that.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think we're all hoping that there will be a good vaccine, and that will help us turn the tide and life will eventually kind of start to get back to normal. That would be a great thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, thank you for letting us get to know you. Is there anything else that you'd like us to know about you before we stop?
Um, I don't think so. Nothing that I could think of.
Okay, well, I appreciate your taking the time. I want everybody to know that Derlyn is available to take on new guests to provide services for mental issues and addictions and things. As she said, the age doesn't matter. And at Gratia Plena, we work with people on their fees so that they can afford to come for counseling. We also have very flexible meeting schedules so that people can afford to come to counseling. And Derlyn, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for your really excellent work. I hear good reviews from people that have visited with you and felt like you were very helpful for them. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, Derlyn, take care and stay healthy, and look forward to catching up with you again in the future.
Okay, you too.
Okay.
Okay.